Hi everyone and welcome. We're going to be going through a series of learning sessions together about Chanukah. Now Chanukah is a festival we all know and love in different ways, but what I want to show is something remarkable that we're going to see through the eyes of the ancient rabbinic world. That is, Chanukah touches literally everything from the first day of creation all the way through to the end of history. And it touches every single day and pretty much every experience of our lives. That may sound very radical, but what I want to do in this first year of this first learning session is to show how the rabbis of antiquity, Chazal, what we call the ancient rabbis of 2,000 to 1,500 years ago, how they show us all of that. See, on the simple level, there was a military conflict. We were in severe danger. Hashem saved us. It was miraculous. We celebrate, which is true, but that's not why the rabbis fixed it, because there were other times also when we were in danger and got saved. They fixed it because they perceived within it something that taps into the fabric of all of existence and all of creation. You see, when I say by the word rabbis, I mean what we call in Hebrew Chazal, Chachamenu Zichron Livracha, our wise people of blessed memory. This refers to the rabbis roughly 2,000 to 1,500 years ago, the rabbis of Mishnah, of Talmud, the first to be writing down, putting into writing things that were contained in the oral traditions that had been earlier. And this is specifically because Israel's losing its autonomy. We're talking about the era, Greek and post-Greek, really, the Roman era, losing autonomy, and we're going to lose the tradition. And stuff starts to be written down, and in their writings, they perceive very, very deep unity, and they leave lots of little hints as to how to thread together weave everything together and build a beautiful oneness and tapestry. And Chanukah for them, like other Jewish festivals, it's like the whole of Torah, the whole of the wisdom of Judaism is integrated into one. And we can't see the whole thing, but we can look through various portals. And if we look, they shed light on absolutely everything. And Chanukah is surprisingly like that. It sheds light literally flowing from the beginning, from the first moments of creation to the end. And the light that shines through Chanukah illuminates all of that. And so it has messages that speak to you and me and everybody in every moment of life. And that may sound exaggerated, but as we go together on this journey, hopefully we'll see what's going on. Now, when we open Chanukah through the ancient rabbinic prism, we want to look for reference points, and they in fact trace it all the way through, literally back to the first day of creation. What happens in the first day of creation is that the world is there, in the beginning of God's creation of heaven and earth, that the world goes through 4 phases of darkness. Right? First describes the world as going through tohu, a phase of chaos, voihu, emptiness, choshech, darkness, al pnei tahoim, on the face of the abyss, a great long depth. V'ruach Elokim marachefes al pnei hamayim, the Spirit of God hovers over the face of the waters. Vayom Elokim hi or, and God says, let there be light, and there's light. Then he separates the light and darkness. He calls light day and darkness night, which means our day and night are echoes of their original light and darkness, the primal light and darkness. Every day we kind of go through that cycle on some level. It's evening and morning, or literally the Hebrew word for evening actually is chaos, eruv, that which mixes things together, boker, levaker, to clarify. Yom Echad is day one. And you can see if you read all the commentaries on the first day. What I want to bring out is something in the Medrash, the ancient rabbinic commentaries that kind of tie together not the legal material, halachic material, but the conceptual material, the philosophical material, the homiletical material. And they see in this a primal pattern that everything in this world goes through 4 phases of darkness before we discover the Spirit of God that's hovering and before we bring out light. And you can look it up for yourself in the Medrash Bereshis Rabbah and other places. So for example, in our own life, we'll typically experience darkness this way. So the tohu, the chaos, is that moment where we're thrown off balance. Somebody tells us a relationship might be over, or a loved one might be very sick, or might be about to die, or a job has just gone, or we hear some news that we don't know how to cope with, and there's the brain just like whirring and denying it, and it's not true. That chaotic moment of instability. But a part of us is denying it or thinking we can solve it, or it's not really what it is. And then comes that moment where we realize it actually is, and there's that kind of sickening sensation of the emptiness. Our brain empties out, our emotions empty out, our stomach, that pit of the stomach feeling of this emptiness. And emptiness can strike in other ways too. It can be the sense of meaninglessness. We give up on life, whatever it may be. But the thought then at that moment is, okay, but I know I'm going to find a way forward. Let me look for the way forward over here, right? And then comes the darkness, that choshech, that deep darkness that says, I don't see the way forward here. It's gone from the chaos at the beginning to kind of a sense of, I don't even know how to walk out of this chaos. I don't even know how to get out of this emptiness. I don't even know if this way is going to get me there or that way. It's like I'm in a chaotic, I got dumped in the middle of nowhere, right? In the middle of a field somewhere. That's like this chaotic sense. I thought, can I get back in the car? No, it's gone. There's, oh my goodness, the emptiness. But I know where to go, right? And suddenly the darkness falls and I don't even know where to walk anymore. But the good news is it's all temporary. We're going to get out of this. I'll wait a few hours. Someone will give me a torch, flashlight. It'll be the morning. And then suddenly comes this sense of actually this Tahim, this great long abyss. It's going to be for a very, very long time. Even if the sun rises, I still won't know where I am. The battery's died on the phone. I can't navigate. I don't know. And all this thing that's over is really over. And I'm not going to figure out a way to bring it back for a very long time. That's on the personal level. And that's not true on the personal level. Like the Midrashim say that it's actually true on the big national level of history. See, first, the Jewish people are in the land and we got the temple and it's going to be a matter of time before God's revelation will permeate the entire world. Okay, then things go wrong, but it's going to be okay. And suddenly comes the tohu, the chaos. The Assyrian followed by Babylonian Empire enters and starts exiling different tribes of the Jewish people. And we're thrown off balance and we're not sure what's going to be. And in fact, they come with full-blown destruction of the temple. And it's, oh my goodness, everything we thought we could ever lean on is gone. And the leadership and the majority of people are exiled into Babylon. And this is, whoa, the chaotic process in the culture of Babylon that literally rips away central points of existence. And in that exile where we're like, surely this is just a quick temporary thing, comes this huge, deep emptiness. As kind of the inner soul of the Jewish people is gone as the Persian Empire takes over. And kind of pumps the culture with literally meaninglessness. And can you just go for materialism and the great feasts of kings celebrating the destruction of the temple and it will never be rebuilt. And we think our calculation of 70 years is gone and is wrong. And in that middle of that chaotic void, that empty civilization, this is where the Purim story takes place. We actually return to the land of Israel and we think, okay, so we've got a way forward. We can rebuild the temple and it's all going to be great. And we kind of, yes, the second temple doesn't feel like the first temple and we're missing the majority of the people, but at least we kind of know the way forward. And then we get taken over by Greek civilization. And that point the rabbis say is darkness. Now that seems surprising because you think of all cultures in the world. The wrong metaphor to use for the Greeks is darkness. Surely, they brought philosophy and mathematics and literature. There's so much stuff they brought to the world, right? They were enlightened civilization. And that's not, by the way, just kind of a secular way of thinking about it. The rabbis themselves do see some very positive things in Greece, which we'll be able to talk about hopefully in future talks, in future shiurim, in future little episodes as we explore the story. But the rabbis say to us what was dark was, and this is the line they use, they wrote, Kisvu lechem al keren ashor. They instructed us to write for ourselves on the horn of an ox. Ein lanu chelik be'Elokei Yisrael. We have no portion in the God of Israel. And we'll have to explain what that means, what's going on over there. And then, just as we think, okay, we got through the Greek episode, right? We got through this darkness with Chanukah, and Chanukah was actually a miracle that involved light, so that's an antidote to darkness. All these we'll have to explore and see. Comes the Tahim, the great long abyss, as we transition into the long exile, becomes the Roman exile, and the exile into Roman lands in Europe and Ishmaelite lands in Arabia and North Africa. And we stay in this exile for a very, very, very long time. And it seems like we're never, ever, ever going to get out of this one. And it's then that the Ruach Elokim Merachapes al Panei Hamayim, that the Spirit of God hovers over the face of the waters. And just like in our own personal lives, if we go through this long chaos, it's that point where we're about to give up. And we say, I don't have to get out of any of this. That's the point when actually, paradoxically, as long as we can still hold on to the fact there may be hope, we just don't know how to generate it. That we're able to say, okay, God, I'm going to stop trying to control the outcome of all this. I'm going to lean into you and hear the voice of God hovering in the background, somewhere behind all this that I don't know how to get out of, that we don't know how to get out of collectively, is your spirit. That, says the rabbis, is the spirit of Mashiach. The messianic spirit, that hope in Mashiach, is actually something very deep and profound. It's not just, oh, I believe there's going to be a miracle zapping and save the day. As we're going to learn, there's something much more profound than that, because it does involve our effort and work. But it's a sense of, I can't see where to thread the next thread, meaning I don't know how to bring this tapestry to perfection, but I believe that God does. And so, God, I'm going to stop trying to run history right now. I'm going to ask you, where do you want me to thread the next thread? And paradoxically and shockingly and surprisingly, both in our personal life and national life, when that attitude we bring about, it leads to Yihar, the light that is the whole of the darkness of the world itself turning into light. And this, say the rabbis, pivotal to this journey is the Chanukah story. Because although the long abyss is really the challenge of thousands of years of exile, it was preceded by a choshech, a darkness that sits on the face of that abyss. And therefore, the lesson of the Chanukah story, Yehiyar, of bringing light, is actually the lesson that if we learn it deeply enough, powers us through any personal darkness that we go through and the long history of the Jewish people that we go through. It's that light that starts to shine and illuminate that in the long run transfers all the darkness, transforms all the darkness into light. And the light of Chanukah, its little miracle, turns out to be the light that changes the whole of history. Because as we hold on to that light year after year, and we slowly imbue and internalize its messages, we transform ourselves from people who travel through darkness and the abyss and all the chaos and void into the people whose actions actually become the great story of history, and whose actions that we think make no difference whatsoever are the actions of light that bring history to its perfection. And this is why there's an amazing commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch is the main body of Jewish law about 500 years ago. And on this little commentary on Teres Hakenim, it quotes an ancient medrash, and we've lost this. We've lost many, many ancient rabbinic works down the ages. But one of them he quotes the following in the laws of Chanukah. He says that actually there's an ancient teaching that says in the very future of the world, there'll come a point where the world is so light that lots of the festivals will be gone. We're kind of transferring into a world where all the energy and spiritual dimensions that the festivals, Pesach, Sukkot, all these Jewish Sukkot and Shavuos, all these Jewish festivals give us, gone. We're kind of on those levels all the time, but there'll be certain festivals who are still there because their message is a message that transitions into the future world. And we normally learn in rabbinic sources about Yom Kippur, the holiness of this day when we're almost like angels. Purim, paradoxically, we have to talk about maybe a series when we get near Purim, how somehow where everything seemed hopeless and turned out for the good, somehow that's already to do with the world to come. But it also adds Chanukah. That's unique to this medrash, this ancient source that's only there in that one source on the commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. But we can begin to hear how that might be. So Chanukah is not just the story of we were in trouble, we got saved, let's thank Hashem. Chanukah is a story of somehow touching the light of the first day of creation. A light that shone on every single day in the temple when they lit the menorah. A light that is there in so many of the biblical stories. And a light that is there every single day in the challenges you and I face. And the light that becomes who we are. We become the light of Chanukah when we learn its lesson every year. And it becomes a part of our daily interaction in the world to come. It actually becomes a part in our daily lives, in our relationship with God. But it also becomes in the long run the actions that we do that will shine, transforming all the darkness of the world into light. So this is a little introduction into the series we're going to learn through together. Hopefully it'll be a fascinating journey. I'm learning these texts and going through it all now, and it's absolutely transformative, and I hope it will be for you too, and look forward to see you in the next episode.